I don't know where to start with this review. There's a lot to unpack here. So I'll admit I didn't know much about Saltburn going into it, only that it was directed by Emerald Fennel, who directed Promising Young Woman, a movie that I thought was great, and also that film Twitter seemed abuzz about a certain scene in Saltburn involving a bathtub drain. Now I'll admit I am drawn to films that are a bit polarizing. Last year, Babylon divided audiences and critics, but I thought it was excellent. So when I heard the talent that was attached to this film, as well as it having the potential to be this more transgressive movie that would leave audiences a bit divided, I was intrigued. Although I did go into this film expecting something that would be more of like a queer erotic thriller starring Jacob Elordi and Barry Keoghan, which signed me up for that. And when the movie started out, it did feel like perhaps that's the direction the film was going in. We see two characters who are attending Oxford together in the year 2006. It does make me feel a little bit old that 2006 is now a time period film, but it was fun to see some of the fashions and the music from the early aughts. One of the first things you'll notice about this film is that it's shot in the Academy ratio, which is where it's more square than it is rectangular. Now, sometimes when directors choose to do things like this with the aspect ratio, I think it just comes across as sort of pretentious, but with this film and its cinematographer, Linus Sandgren, who also shot Babylon, I think the visuals came together in a way that made sense, and having that Academy ratio and having the actors kind of closer together created this sort of claustrophobia and tension during some of the scenes. The movie's central character is Oliver, played by Barry Keoghan. He's a shy, awkward guy who has trouble fitting in with the more preppy university students who dismiss him as a scholarship kid. When he strikes up a friendship with a popular student named Felix, played by Jacob Elordi, things seem innocent enough. Unbeknownst to Felix, however, Oliver is obsessed with him in the worst way, like a really creepy, spies on him through his window kind of way. This might seem like it's part of some sort of dark sexual obsession, and while sexuality does play a part, what transpires as the film goes on is primarily a film about a class struggle and the interaction between someone from a more aristocratic background interacting with someone of a working class background. About a fourth of the way into the movie, the story goes into a new setting, that being the Saltburn estate, the opulent mansion where Felix's family resides, and Oliver goes to spend the summer. This is where things went off the rails for me. At this point, we're introduced to Felix's family, and while this lineup of characters is played by an impressive ensemble of actors like Richard E. Grant and Carey Mulligan, there's just something about the performances of these characters that just feels a bit over the top, like they're acting for a franchise film versus something a bit more art house. And it's in the Saltburn estate that the film begins to incorporate some of its most shocking elements. At least elements it really wants you to think are very, very, very shocking. This gave me the feeling of going to an art show where a performance artist is doing something provocative, and it just comes across as some sort of attention grab. Now, I'm not judging the film through some sort of puritanical lens, but I do think if you're going to take the movie into the places that it does, it has to be anchored in a good story. And I don't think the pieces of the film came together in a way to justify the kind of visuals that we see on screen. It just comes across as sort of silly. Without spoiling anything, some plot revelations in the film's final act make the film come across like it thinks it's way more clever than it actually is. That being said, I will say once again, the movie is beautifully shot. The scenes where they're together at the mansion, it just looks so opulent and beautiful. And I did like in this case that Academy ratio, just every shot seemed framed in just the perfect way. There's a party scene at the mansion where there's these lights and this very lush imagery, and it's just very visually compelling. And it has incredible performances from both of its lead actors. Barry Keoghan and Jacob Elordi demonstrate that they're going to go down as some of the finest actors of this generation. I mean, say what you will about the film, but Barry was definitely, committed to the movie, let's just say. With Saltburn's muddled messaging on class struggle and an inconsistent plot that relies on shock factor as a form of shtick, I say Saltburn is a movie you can probably skip. I give it 2 out of 5 stars. Saltburn is playing in theaters now.